Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Alliance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. Mopar Monday, I just looked at my watch, 7:30 p.m., 10,000 steps exactly. How about that? So you know I'm not pulling your chain there very hard. That's my focused hand there, but yeah, 10,000, so cool. What are the odds of that? Probably very, very little, but what we have going on here might just be a little bit more exciting for all but maybe a handful of you who enjoy that sort of a thing. And I think even if you're super into steps and 10,000 and even numbers and that sort of a thing, you're probably still going to like this pretty well. So what we've got going on, we've been pulling apart a DRPD order. This one dates back to, I want to say, end of August, so nothing too crazy long, but it's something I really wanted to get set up, get going, and there's some things that I think you're going to enjoy. So what we're going to need is this. This is not my go-to. My go-to is the slightly longer one. It is currently in the truck, and I don't feel like getting it in a giant extension out. So we have that. What is it? It is the Koken Zeal 72 tooth quarter drive. And of course, quarter drive you can get in flex head, standard long, you can get fixed head, if you will, standard and long there as well. So that's fantastic ratchet. Again, you know my complaints, it's just a little too dainty, and it's just really the size. The price is up there as well in my opinion, but fantastic. I can't argue with the performance of the ratchet. It's just, again, the way I am, I just kind of prefer a little bit more meat there. But one of the things that is going to pair beautifully with that is something I don't think I've ever seen someone bring in. Now, we brought in something that we couldn't get an SAE, and it's really cool. I've gotten to use it only like 2 or 3 times, mainly because it's metric, and therefore I don't encounter it as much, but it worked really well. And this is sort of it's almost like a specialty item, but it's not, because it's standard, but it's looking like it's going to be really good. And since we're talking metric, we'll get started with that. It says, once again, if you're new here, timestamps and links are there. I don't make jack off of that. It takes me extra time. I do it solely for your convenience. So what we have is Koken's part number, RS2010 M/7-L25. The price point is going to be pretty reasonable when you see it, $41.65. If you've studied their numbers, you know RS is railed set. You know the /7 is going to be 7-piece. If you're thinking like L25, would that be the length of 25 millimeter? Well, that's 100% correct. And what it is in all of its glory is right here. And if you're thinking like, hey man, that's not in focus, hey, I totally agree, but I had my other hand full, my apologies. And, now you get the big reveal, right? So there again, you can reference the part number, and if you're thinking like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, they skipped 9. What's going on here? You know, what's the deal? This is a strange socket set. Well, it is kind of a strange socket set because if you couldn't tell from the picture, it's a Hex Bit Socket set. Now, it's a weird story how this came to be. Trying to stop a massive, massive leak on a gland nut on the forklift. I can't remember now. I think it's a 3. Pretty sure it would be a 3. You'll see why I'm questioning myself here in a second. But it's a crazy fit. So technician came out and replaced the seal at the top of the mast. To his credit, fixed that. Against his credit, he made the leak way worse by cracking the gland nut. There's essentially one, kind of like a set screw, right? And then there's a bleeder, and they're kind of juxtaposed, sort of like something like this, right? I think he also has the gland nut shifted incorrectly, because you've got all this fixed steel here that you can't do anything with around the mast, and I think this should be clocked a little differently, right? You know, like if these are offset on your bolt hole circle, every time you spin this way and make that more accessible, this comes in and changes its position on the circle. Well, he did like a terrible job there. I came out, you know, and I think, you know, hey, we're getting, you know, like professional technicians here. Figured they'd have the proper spanner wrench. You know what their spanner wrench consisted of? A hammer and a chisel. And it's like, dude, I could have done better than that. And I feel inclined now, but I could have sold that guy a whole lot of pliers wrenches, I bet. But yeah, no clue what was the thought process there. I don't know. One thing I've never really found is like a good. All of them have been nice. All of them have been really nice. There was one old school guy who is no longer around anymore. He was decent, but there were like certain things he couldn't do. And yeah, if you've got like a propane or LP gas forklift, man, there's like, find me a technician that can do it. In this area, I don't think there is one. They might be able to do the hydraulic side. One of them might be able to do, like some of the engine stuff. One of them, which is going to be the rare one, might be able to figure out, like the propane delivery. It's very complicated. It's not really complicated, but no one can do it. It's like a carburetor, right? You get all these factory trained technicians, and you're a little wizard with a computer that tells you what's wrong and how to fix it. But diagnosing on your own, oh yeah, it's kind of a hit and a miss there. So anyway, before we go off on too much of a tangent, I needed the 3. I was trying to find the best way to do it. I was looking for like half cut bits. I was looking for pretty much anything. And of course, like a standard, 1/4 or 3/8 drive hex bit, like think of Pittsburgh stuff, which, hey, I've had really good luck with that stuff. I don't know if everyone's the same, but T-handles and the bits, I haven't really had much go wrong. So S2 steel, they claim. I'm thinking they must be telling the truth there. But the problem is that stuff is like way too big, like way too big for the tight confines here. I'm not sure that this is going to fit either. What I wound up doing, what I got first, was a little Hazette set. The 3mm plugged right in my bit ratchet. I was able to get that in there. I can get some of the short L keys in. It's just a situation. It's stress fractured basically, so it's a moot point. But when I was looking around, you've got your usual suspects. You got Mac. I could not find like the proto super stubbies. If I could, I would have brought those in. But you got Mac, you got Snap-on. I think there might have been some like Taiwanese stuff of questionable sources. And then there was Koken, and Koken's price, as usual, is killer. It's right there with like the stuff that you're questioning whether it would function. If it's going to be, machined to the correct size, if it's going to snap off the first time you use it. This is like in that price range, and this is a known quality from Japan, and that's why we pulled the trigger, and they are here. So this set, again, basically 3 through 10, which is pretty nice. It is 1/4 drive, as best I remember anyway. It certainly looks like it, and if you'll note, they're super small. In terms of hex bits, now granted, they're not half cut, nothing crazy like that, but just for standard run-of-the-mill, outside of crazy things, which might have been influenced by a bad technician and you should have had way more clearance than they currently do, I think this is going to be like a stubby set for most people. And what I mean by that is you could probably buy this, get in wherever you need to with a drive tool, in this case, a ratchet or a spinner handle type of a thing, T-handle set up, like one of the Philo T-handles will look pretty good if you've got the access. And you won't have to spend the tons and tons of money that people demand for like the half-cut bit. Now, in that case, you would think, well, that should cost less. I would agree with it costing more. Again, that ratchet, you hear me like, oh, 1/4, scale down, should be less material, same machining, but less material, blah, blah. I totally get the process of, like the stubby is costing a little bit more. You're not going to move as many. You're not going to make as many. It's a whole back end there. But the bottom line, these are not stubby. These are just standard. They're 25mm, and they look really well done. So I just realized I don't have a tape measure over here. I could not find my Hazette for forever. That's what I have on the US General. And what happened, I found it a couple nights ago. I had locked it away in a drawer when I was measuring socket rails for like this big Ernst order I'm planning to make. I usually have a Starrett ruler sitting here, a 6-inch. I just cleaned. Right before this video, I cleaned, and I think that's where we went wrong. We'll just run with it. We will run with the 25mm, because that's unfortunate. We don't seem to have anything nearby. I've got knives, I've got screwdrivers, I've got box cutters, the Cuttix, another box cutter, ballot hex keys of random assorted sizes. Yeah, I don't know. That Starrett ruler is supposed to be there. It blends in with the work surface. Obviously, it's not on the mat. It's not a steel table. So yeah, I think... Wait, there it is. Underneath the Cuttix. So this looks way more visible here than it does to the naked eye, but I'm going to jump in, flip her over here to the 16ths. And yeah, she's clocking in. The overall length is going to be right at an inch. So the actual hex bit itself, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be 1/4 of an inch. So yeah, and the overall length is important. I had Colin like get measurements on some Hazette, Stavilla, and Gador stuff for me. Right there, just take my word for it, it's 1/4. And here, I hope you can see, if you kind of draw an imaginary line from the one down through the hex bit, boom, 1 inch. So, like I said, these aren't stubby, but I think for most people, these could serve as a stubby set. And again, 10, like, this is 7 pieces for $40. I mean, that's not a bad price, folks. I mean, Koken, now, to be fair, I've not used their hex stuff very long. I haven't had those, like I said, they're metric, sadly. If they're SAE, I could probably tell you definitively at this point. But, based on everything else from Koken, I feel pretty confident in them. Right here, you're really not going to be able to crank that much on them, especially if you're using something Koken branded. But just a stupid, nice little set. Now, while I was there, dealing in metric land there, I think I needed that 3. I'm like 90% sure it was a 3mm. It's been a couple of weeks there. But, I spent another $11.80 because I spent $5.90 for 2 standalone items, which, oh Lord, we might have a hard time finding. Boom. Luckily, I wrote hex on this, otherwise I would screw it up. That kind of spoils what it is, but I got the 2 and the 2.5. You're thinking like, why, Mr. SAE? What's the point in that? You're throwing money away. No. LED lights, like the adjustments and everything, this is going to be really, really nice. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, hey, you can't do that in the housing. Totally agree, and that's why the bulb has to be out, and this is going to be way more satisfying to use. Assuming it clears. I think it will. If not, we'll have to get, like, maybe 50mm. And go to town. But that's kind of why I brought those in. Also, I was in the mindset of needing this 3 stubby, and I thought, the 2 and the 2.5, we could run into it. You're thinking, hey, they're not on the rail. No, they are not. We will, of course, be doing something custom from Ernst. Take care of that. So, like I said, $5.90 a piece for these little guys. We'll get one in hand for you, even though it's essentially the same as the 10 with a smaller hex. I do want to highlight this. Let's just, screw it. We're going to take Easy Street here. It's just easier for me to showcase this to you. So, what I like, you've got the 10, very, very big, obviously relative to the space, stamped good. You've got Koken, made in Japan underneath that. You've got the standalone part number, which is kind of nice should you break this and you just need to replace one. Sometimes you can have a sort of a difficult time tracking them down. Again, the geometries look really good. Flipping this over, good grief. I don't know if you're going to tell, but to me, this looks like it's just a press fit. There's no set screw here. Sometimes that's desirable, sometimes it's not. Like if say we broke a 10mm or 2.5 or something. If you get that flushed up and even, you can just chuck that thing down in one of these adjustable ones and boom, go to town, right? But in this case, I think they're kind of just scaled appropriately in sort of a press fit. You can see the hex profile on the socket base there. So a really nice looking piece, and again, a stupid competitive price. I would feel confident putting this up against the stuff I'm familiar with. Bondis, Elkind, Proto. Not gonna lie, the majority of the stuff at work is like Bondis, Elkind, Proto. We have a lot of Armstrong, like long hex bit sockets, but all old stuff, old Americana, great stuff. And again, this is conjecture because I haven't gotten to use these, but I have a good feeling they're going to hold up pretty well for us. So With that in mind, you're thinking like, okay, well that's cool, but you know, do they not make that in SAE either? Well, they don't, but that's because they make an 8-piece set, and the part number for that is RS 2010A. Again, that A is going to indicate American SAE /8. That's going to tell you 8 pieces -L25. Now, I can tell you, sadly, there are not near as many iterations of these in SAE as there are metric. It sucks. It's like the German stuff. If I go in and like invest heavily, you know, the Gearhead Stavilla, you can't really replicate the same items in SAE. It's just like, think of Stavillas as Series 14, slightly longer wrenches, a little different offset. Great wrenches. You think, man, I'd love to have this, you know, 7/16, half, 9/16, 3/4. And they don't make it. Heiko Max line. And you're like, man, these are a steal, you know. I could grab these and have a nice offset set for, you know, cheap. Nope, no SAE. That's one of those types of things. And I guess with Koken, we're fortunate they make some of it. Same with the Germans. It's just a deal where they don't do the full range like you would see with metric. So you're adding one socket here, going from 7 metric pieces to 8 SAE. Price point there, $52.05. You pay that SAE premium. Again, I'm sure they don't sell near as many of these, especially Koken, as they do the metric equivalent. But we'll get this out of the bag for some eye candy while we take a look at the set contents, which is much easier to see here on the bag. So what do we got? We've got an 1/8, 5/32, 3/16, 7/32, quarter. That is very, very heavily used for me at work. 9/32, 5/16, all the way up to 3/8, which again, that's a decent drive size assortment for quarter drive. Now, could we go a little bit smaller? We could, but you're kind of at a point there where I feel like everything is sort of metric at that size, you know. Like I'm looking over here at the KC Tool Precision driver stands. Maybe that would be like a 3 as well. That almost fits. I wonder if it's this 2.5. It's been a long time since we've used those. Put them together, I should say. I'll check the 2. 2 is way too small. 2.5. Too small. Sorry, I know you can't even see this. I'm just curious, and I have to satisfy that lust of knowing. Oh yeah, it's a 3, I think. It's a little wobbly in there. So we'll have to double check. Maybe it was an SAE size, although I could not imagine that. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? Anything that was made recently is probably going to have a small metric one, especially when you think of electronics, technology, that sort of a thing. Very, very high probability that we're sadly going to deal with metric fasteners over SAE. So let's just jump right in here, grab the big one, 3/8. Again, that confirms quarter drive. I do love the fact, as usual, they've got a very nice chamfer on there, going to help me locate it easy. Which that's the other thing, when you deal with that 3 on that forklift, you have the oiliest hands you could ever imagine. It's just that bad. So 3/8 right here. Let's check her out. Let's plug her in. Let's make this thing ginormous on the drive size. So how often would I use this? Probably just when I need the clearance. I can't think of many situations off the top of my head where this would be mandatory. And typically, you know, like you would run your L key, and that's about the profile here. So if you had a 3/8 and you're going to step up, you might not be able to fit this. Maybe this is something, especially like when I say say that, I'm thinking of like a smaller size, right? So maybe you've rigged up a panel, or like it's a security deal. Maybe you put like a fancy head unit in something, and instead of just running like screws or bolts, you're going to do like a hex profile, because you're not going to make yourself buy security Torx trash, which you can't even find fasteners for. So you're just thinking like, okay, I'm going to make this cumbersome for people. Or maybe it's just you want it flush. Maybe you're doing a really clean install. Why would you ever run a socket cap screw? So you're going to run it down flush, right? And maybe it's tight. Maybe you just prefer to do this over an L key. This would be a bit more comfortable in my opinion. But like I said, this is a little overstated here, given that we've basically gone from 0.250 to 0.375 with this jump. But I think it gives you a good idea of what we were going for. So I'm kind of at an interesting point here. I plan to do another item And as I sit here and see that we're almost at 20 minutes, I'm kind of questioning it. One of the big things, let me zoom in, that might spoil things. Spoiler alert, if you paid attention there, you might get tipped off to something. But what I'm trying to say here is essentially, tool hauls to me are, kind of unique. They're, if you go in and you buy like Labor Day sale from DRPD, boom, there it is. Maybe you buy KTC Nepros, maybe you get Koken, maybe you get Knipex from them, maybe PB Swiss. Sort of makes sense to divide it up if you get all screwdrivers from every brand, throw them all together, sure. But in terms of like trying to do you a favor, and I think of this not only from experience, but also like me looking for something. Like if I was like, man, I wonder how short and stubby these quarter drive Kokens are, and I'll go in and I'll look for the part number and I'll type in like Koken quarter drive bit sockets and hex bit sockets and you name it. And if I just come in here and I've got like DRPD tool haul 14, unless you look at the thumbnail, right, you may not know. Now granted, I put things in the description, I tag it, I list the tags, I spend extra time doing that. Which I used to be very helpful in YouTube. Now they just kind of, screw it. Your channel's too old. We don't care about you. But as much as I may try to let you know, like this part number for metric, this part number for SAE, the 2.5 quarter drive hex, whatever I try to do, if that's like buried in the tool haul 14, you might not pick up on it. I have this issue with Mac stuff. Like I'll go around and I'm like, man, can't believe I found this thing. It's pretty cool. Surely there's some videos on it. Let's check them out, see if it's junk or good. Nobody has videos on it. Now I'm sure with especially some of this stuff, like somebody has to have bought it and thought, man, I got to make a video on that thing. And whether it's like in a toolbox tour, or like a poorly titled video, or like just my Mac tool haul Wednesday 2022 type of a title, I can't find it. And then the video is of no use to me. I don't come to your channel, I don't watch your videos, I don't think, wow, this dude or chick has some really cool stuff, they're into the same crud I am, I'm gonna subscribe, or hey, I'll remember this channel next time I need to know about Mac Ratchet or something. No dice. So I'm kind of thinking we might just call it here. And what I will do, since I think I'm going to make that decision official, I'll run in, we'll kind of have some bonus content here, but that's it, sadly. Just these 4 items, I guess you would call it. It's essentially SAE and metric quarter drive hex bit sockets. But just for size comparison, let me go grab some other stuff and we'll kind of showcase that for you. Alright, so grabbed a couple of different setups here, which are still in the process of being sorted. But first things first, this little Wiha one. This is kind of what I'm talking about. A lot of times, obviously this is 3H drive, but imagine quarter drive. You're thinking like, okay, what's the deal? It's just press fit in there. Well, there's a set screw, so I could come in here, I could hammer that thing out, and I could swap this over to a T50 bit, or pretty much whatever I want. So if it's a situation and you really need some leverage with a number 3 Phillips, and you've got this set of Torx bit drivers or hex or whatever, take the set screw out, which ironically you need a tiny hex for, right? Punch it out, put whatever standard bit you want in there, or maybe you need like extra length if you got 50mm or 89mm or 1-inch bits or whatever, you can create it, and you're going to have the drive size of this bit socket, if you will. So the downside, if I come in and we grab this little 3/8 right here, and again, you got to think this is usually going to be great. This is super compact. So right there, look at the size difference there. Again, I know it's quarter versus 3/8, but that gives you a good idea of what you could possibly accomplish with these and save money versus buying a dedicated stubby set. Now, coming in right here, we will grab, geez, I guess the 10 would be close to it. So this set right here has been pretty good to me now. It's Koken as well, as you should be able to tell. And once again, kind of similar setup there, just sort of like pressed. And the difference is you've sort of got like the magic ring, if you will. So a hex grip in this case, and that's just a deal. It's stupid handy if you deal with this stuff a lot, particularly going down, or maybe just trying to locate something up if it's constantly getting deflected and the fastener's falling in your face. Something like that, whether it's Wiha, Koken, doesn't matter. Vera's got the holding function stuff. It's super, super nice. I wouldn't use them as your daily drivers. I'd save them for special occasions. But this is going to give you like a better idea. Again, 3/8 drive here, but look at that. Just absurd, right? The difference in that. So the last thing, this is probably what most of you are going to be able to relate to. I think I did not, I grabbed metric. So let me grab the 10. No, let me grab this guy. So it was the most recently used one. That's a 4. And again, it's going to be 3/8 drive, which is a bad comparison, but that's the thing. You're going to find this in 3/8 drive all the time. This Pittsburgh set you're familiar with, 3/8 and half. Same setup, it's kind of a press fit. You know, you can knock that out if you wanted to, but look how much of a standout you have there before you get to the machine business end, which again, that could be a good thing. You know, you might have, you know, an obstruction here, framework, bracket, what have you, and you would need the length. If you've got obstructions back here preventing a drive tool from coming in, you've got this thing. So keep it all in mind. But I mean, that gives you a pretty legit idea there of how good and handy these could be for you. So with that, man, that's about it. You know, we could come in here and we could plug this in on the quarter icon, just get like a little extra length. Gives you an idea with the flex head. Again, put it on a roto ratchet. And these would be really cool because you could run it down and then get your leverage. Again, it just depends really in this case the application. Honest to gosh, the size of those Pittsburghs, if I'm just coming in and buying a set of hex, you know, bit sockets, if you will, that's probably where I start. This would be usually for me with this type of a thing, I always think of like, I deal with this stuff over, you know, like standard fasteners, water necks, freeze plug type of things, squares, you know, and it's usually a deal where while this would be really cool in that situation, it's getting the ratchet down there, and I could probably do it with this. It's so small, especially the Koken ratchet, but then you're just working in a super tight confine, and if I can use something this length, you know, like 100 millimeter and come down, even running an extension sometimes with that or something like you saw from Pittsburgh, that works better for me. These for me are like special purpose, tight clearance operations. And again, if you get bored, go price out what Snap-on wants or what Mac wants for those half cuts. Heck, even Vim, the prices are insane. And Koken, right there with like cheap sets, and it's going to be way better quality. I just felt like I could not go wrong there, so we pulled the trigger, brought both of them in, and we've got them when we need them. We'll probably slowly build out a Koken Hex bit set because again, I kind of got a thing for Hazette's titanium nitride coating. Not gonna lie, I have a few of those somehow. Like it started with a number 2 Phillips, and then there was something else I needed, and one thing leads to another. But the Ghedoras are very nice as well. But in terms of if you want everything to match as best as it can across the board, you're very limited with your German stuff on the SAE side. Even Koken's not going to be able to match mirror to mirror, but it's slightly closer for what it's worth. But anything else that does match, it's probably going to be like Taiwan if you're lucky. Otherwise it would just be junk. Stay away, stay away from the really cheap stuff. It's not going to be good. And you'll have to buy more fasteners, and they're a pain in the butt to track down. So unless it's something you like stock and deal with all the time. But anyway, yeah, that is it, man. That is what we did here. Again, let me know your thoughts on that. Like if I came in here and threw down PB Swiss screwdrivers and Napros ratchets and, you know, new Koken ratchet, it's a great video, but at the same time then, if you were looking specifically for, say, a new Napros ratchet that's in this tool haul, maybe you find it, maybe you don't. You know, I don't know. It's something I've been giving more thought to lately, and, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, the videos are too long. Well, if we spend 42 minutes on a tool haul but we introduce like 8 items, it's really not that long, and then you've got somebody that like brings in a pair of channel locks and it's a 22-minute video, and they're like, yeah, that's good. It's kind of like, geez, you know, like we were more efficient than that. But like I said, I think everyone prefers something different. But with something like this, if we were just getting, say, I bought, I don't know, 1/2-inch drive socket set for work in SAE, and then I got 3/8 semi-deep metric for work. That totally makes sense as a tool haul, but for like rarer items that aren't brought in as frequently, maybe this is the way to go. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. But with that said, I'm thrilled about these little things. I think we got a really... Oh, and I should mention, since they came from DRPD, we're already getting a great price. But then this particular sale, I don't remember what it was, but it was the Labor Day sale, so it was a really steep discount. 15, 20, 25, 30, something really good. So we didn't pay near the 50 or the 40. So if this is something you can live without for a little while, wait for a sale. I always advise that. Even if it's just 10%, you're still going to save yourself cash. You can basically then get those 2 add-on sizes, mixing sizes, a size bigger, a 3/8 that you're going to use, whatever. It kind of all jumps out in your favor every time if you can be patient. So with that said, I do hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a little something. If you have used these, what are you using them on? Do you find yourself using these all the time? Is it because of the unique application, primarily tight clearances? Is it a situation where you just prefer them? Do you find that you only use these for like crazy scenarios and you almost always wind up using, you know, like your 50mm length? Whatever your story is, feel free to leave it down below. I think that'll help people out. But yeah, pretty excited to have these here and go to town with them. So like I said, it's not going to be my daily drivers, but it's going to be something that I'm going to be happy to have when we need it. And I may take that with me to work and see if it'll fit. You got to think, you know, like a little bit of that's going to go into the drive end of the Ratchet, so you don't have a ton of extension beyond that point. So we'll see. I'm excited to have them. I think they'll come in handy from time to time. Not terribly often, to be honest with you, but from time to time, I do think these will be a big deal in a small package, and I'm excited to have them in the arsenal. So with that said, let me know your thoughts on this stuff. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Remember, if you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you jump your Charger across the creek, grab your Koken quarter drive flex head, put on the 2.5mm hex bit socket, and successfully adjust the LED lights that you just put in your car. YouTube just might notify you that we got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.